Well, thank you all for joining us today. While we're not able to be with you in person, I hope you'll find this presentation informative and useful. My name is Mark Broderson, and I'm from the Regional Educational Laboratory Central, or REL Central. I'm happy to have joining with me Liz Glasser and Tamia Pinn, also from REL Central, and Natalie Clark, Assistant Director of Career Standards and Assessment Services from the Kansas State Department of Education. During this presentation, we will provide a brief overview of the REL program, our partnership with KSDE and educators across Kansas that focuses on individual plans of study, and review the work that the partnership has conducted to date, with an emphasis on describing an individual plan of study theory of change and research regarding how college and career goals setting and the use of IPS electronic portfolios may support students' college and career readiness and success. So first, let me provide you with a little background about REL Central. REL Central is a regional educational laboratory that's funded by the Institute of Education Sciences in the U.S. Department of Education. REL Central serves a 7-state region, including Colorado, Wyoming, Kansas, Nebraska, North and South Dakota, and Missouri. We're charged with providing technical support to stakeholders in our region and conducting research on topics that are priorities for our stakeholders. All of the work that we do is informed by stakeholders in our region and organized under research partnerships. This work is designed to result in improved student and educator outcomes that are associated with the partnership's priority topic area. In particular, we strive to provide technical assistance, conduct research, and develop resources that will be useful to educators, students, and their families. The priority topic for our partnership in Kansas is improving the post-secondary readiness and success of Kansas students by increasing the implementation of and student participation in evidence-based or research-supported IPS practices. This topic emerged because while research has shown an increasing requirement of the workforce for some level of education that goes beyond a high school education, the number of Kansas students meeting those requirements has been below the demand of the workforce. The implementation of individual plans of study is believed to be one mechanism to increase our students' ability to succeed in life after high school. While having an individual plan of study has been a requirement for 8th through 12th grade students in Kansas since 2018, there appears to be little understanding about IPS's purpose, goals, or rationale among many teachers, students, and family members. There is also limited data regarding exactly how IPS are being implemented in schools, the extent to which students participate and find value in them, or which specific IPS practices or activities are most associated with positive student outcomes. While I imagine that many watching this presentation have at least some familiarity with individual plans of study, I'd like to provide a general definition of them and describe some of their key components. Individual plans of study, also referred to as college and career plans, individualized learning plans, or individual career and academic plans, are implemented in one form or another in over 40 states in the District of Columbia. IPS are education and career plans tailored to each student's personal interests and skills. They include activities to help students identify their personal strengths and career interests and are designed to help students align their educational experiences to meet their interests and achieve their college and or career goals. As a product, IPS has students document their academic journey and successes in meeting their goals. As I mentioned, each student in Kansas has been required to have an IPS since 2018. While each student will take a different path to achieve their personal college and or career goals, IPS are intended to provide them with the knowledge, skills, and experiences necessary to help them accomplish those goals. I'm now going to pass this over to Natalie, who's going to talk a little bit more about IPS in the context of Kansas.
Thank you, Mark. First, I would like to thank REL Central for their support in IPS in the state of Kansas. The resources that REL Central has developed will assist in strengthening the IPS implementation process. As Mark said, all students beginning in at least middle school will develop an IPS based upon their career interests. An IPS is both the product that the student develops and the process that the school implements to guide students in developing their future plans. There are 4 minimum components of a student's IPS. That includes a graduated series of strength finders and career interest inventories that will help students identify their preferences towards career clusters, 8th through 12th grade course builder function with course selections based on their career interests, and a general post-secondary plan, whether their goals are to pursue workforce, military, a certification program, or 2 or 4-year college, and finally, an electronic portfolio. The individual plan of study is created cooperatively between the student, staff members of the school district, and family members. The elementary level is where the individual plan of study first begins, so that the students find out more about focusing on building basic awareness of career options, as well as awareness of the 7 career fields in Kansas. In middle school, students begin to learn about work. So the school district's process of providing those middle school career exploration experiences may include enhancing awareness of career options, providing those connections with local businesses, and exploration of the 16 career clusters in Kansas. In high school, we talk about career preparation or learning for work. So each school district's process of providing high school career preparation experiences include allowing experiences for the students to deepen their knowledge and skills for employment and post-secondary opportunities, work-based learning opportunities with local businesses, opportunities for students to earn college credits during high school, and also opportunities for students to earn industry-recognized credentials. It is our responsibility as educators to provide information and resources that include labor market information and post-secondary information for students and their families.
All right, thank you, Natalie. Okay, so now going beyond just the Kansas context and the 4 required components, I'd like to describe more broadly the general categories of activities or practices that may be included as part of students' IPS. So in the work that we've done, we've kind of categorized the broad range of possible IPS activities into 4 main categories. These include self-exploration activities to help students learn about their personal strengths and interests, career exploration activities to help students learn about careers that may fit their individual strengths and interests, college and career planning and goal setting where students create a plan for how to achieve their college and career aspirations, and workforce competency and skill development activities or experiences where students learn the hard and soft skills necessary to succeed in the workplace. Self-exploration activities tend to be those where school time is dedicated to things like taking personal strengths and learning style inventories or career interest assessments. In Kansas, these frequently occur during students' advocacy, advisory, or homeroom periods and have students complete online lessons through programs such as Zello or U-Science. These activities can also include discussions with teachers and counselors to help students identify their life goals. Career exploration activities include things like attending college and career fairs, listening to guest speakers that are brought to the school or to particular classes where they talk about their jobs, dedicating a day in a class to discuss the different types of careers that are relevant for the particular topic area, such as biology or algebra, and participating in job shadowing and career-based field trips. All of these activities are intended to help students learn about different types of careers which may and may not be of interest to them and match with their particular strengths and skills. The college and career planning and goal setting activities associated with individual plans of study are intended to help students identify their college and career goals and the steps needed to accomplish them. This can include developing a multi-year class plan aligned with students' goals, identifying a post-high school plan or goal, such as a specific job, college degree, or military branch and job type they want to pursue. Teachers or school counselors may also have students set short, medium, and long-term career-related goals, have them track their progress in meeting those goals, and report out on their progress through things like student-led parent and teacher conferences. Workforce competency and skill development activities include those opportunities for students to actually participate and learn the skills required of their career of interest. Each student's career interest and educational pathway will be different, but could include things like taking career and technical education classes, earning college credit while in high school through advanced placement, dual or concurrent enrollment classes, participating in an internship or other work-based learning activity, or earning a professional certification while in high school. IPS electronic portfolios are where students document all of their accomplishments and evidence of their college and or career readiness. We'll focus more on goal setting and use of portfolio in the next section of the presentation. So next, we'd like to take a little time to talk about our REL Central Kansas IPS partnership and describe some of the work we've been doing to help support the implementation of effective IPS practices and hopefully support Kansas students' college and career readiness and success. So to help address the needs of this partnership, REL Central has partnered with KSDE and 2 districts in Kansas to engage in activities to support the implementation of IPS. Through partnership conversations, some of the first IPS-related needs that emerged were limited capacity to monitor IPS implementation and student participation, and limited knowledge of outcomes associated with particular IPS activities. To begin to address these needs, we spent the 2022-23 school year developing IPS-related data collection instruments. This involved documenting and categorizing IPS activities being monitored and reported upon across districts and the states. Conducting focus groups with teachers and students to understand their knowledge and understanding of IPS was also done, to examine how IPS was being implemented in schools and how students were participating and engaging in IPS. We then developed and piloted draft data collection tools and used the pilot data to revise and finalize the instruments. Our partner districts will use these instruments to collect data during the 23-24 school year, which will be also used for a research study to more thoroughly describe IPS implementation and participation and to identify IPS activities more and less associated with students' secondary and early post-secondary outcomes. Specifically, the secondary outcomes we'll be examining include attendance, GPA, graduation, CTE completer status, APIB credits earned, dual concurrent enrollment credits earned, obtaining an industry recognized certificate, completing an internship or apprenticeship. Post-secondary outcomes will include college enrollment and college attendance. The overall goal of the study is to identify high leverage IPS activities that are most associated with positive student outcomes. As alluded to earlier, we also have found there to be limited knowledge among teachers, students, and families regarding the purpose, goals, and rationale of IPS, which presents a challenge of getting buy-in from our stakeholders. We also noted a need for increased understanding of the IPS research base and recommendations for implementation of particular IPS activities. To help address these needs, we have worked with our partners to review research and developed an IPS theory of change and research-based fact sheets. All of the research discussed in this presentation is summarized in REL Central's infographic, which presents an IPS theory of change, and fact sheet, which summarizes student outcomes and research-based implementation recommendations associated with college and career goal setting and the use of IPS electronic portfolios. Links to these documents are provided at the end of this presentation, and I believe hard copies are available for those attending this presentation in person. Briefly, to develop these resources, we leveraged information collected during instrument development project described earlier, specifically the categorization of IPS activities already being tracked and reported upon, and information collected through the educator and teacher focus groups. We also conducted a scan of the literature to identify relevant research. I do want to note that the literature scan and resulting products do have some limitations. Okay, so why do we care about IPS? Well, first, it is a requirement for 8th through 12th grade students in Kansas. Given this requirement, there's a need to increase student, parent, and educator buy-in and to increase educators' capacity to implement evidence-based IPS practices. Finally, the overall purpose of IPS is to increase students' college and career readiness and success, which I believe is a goal that we all can support. Now, while our review of the research showed that no rigorous studies have directly examined IPS as a whole, research that has examined associated practices suggests that IPS has promise in supporting student outcomes. Our IPS theory of change starts with the activities that make up an IPS, which are aligned to the 4 key categories of an IPS that we've already discussed. The theory of change then lists the expected IPS outputs and outcomes. REL Central developed this theory of change based on the research that was reviewed. Much of the foundational thinking regarding IPS comes from Scott Solberg, who's been conducting research associated with IPS for many, many years. Through participating in IPS activities, students learn about different careers, take classes that are aligned to their college and or career goals, and are better able to see the connections between their classwork and their careers of interest. Research suggests that when IPS are implemented with supportive adults and regularly reviewed, they may increase students' academic engagement, sense of agency, acquisition of career-relevant knowledge and skills, and drive to accomplish their college and career goals. IPS-related activities such as college and career goal setting and participating in work-based learning experiences such as completing a career and technical education pathway have also been linked to improved outcomes during high school, such as improved academic achievement and completion of more rigorous coursework, and post-high school outcomes such as increased college enrollment, degree completion, and wages. Now I'm going to pass this over to Liz Glasser, who will provide a deeper dive regarding research on career and academic goal setting.
Thank you, Mark. So as you mentioned, we're now going to talk about career and academic goal setting, which was one of the topics that we focused on for the research scan that contributed to our fact sheets. While goal setting can encompass all areas of a young person's life, we will specifically focus on setting goals related to college, career, and overall academic planning. So we can go to the next slide. For the purposes of understanding how this connects to IPS, we first needed to define goal setting. Based on our research scan and our work with partners in Kansas, we define goal setting as the act of identifying a specific academic and/or career achievement or a set of achievements, developing a set of progressively challenging steps to help them reach that achievement, and reflecting on your progress towards that achievement. We will talk a little bit about effective goals later, but there are some key details now about career and academic goal setting that will help us to understand the research. Students can set short-term, medium-term, or long-term goals. A short-term career and academic goal would be, for example, earning a 3.5 GPA 2 semesters in a row. A medium-term goal would be something like get into and enroll in a top choice college. And a long-term goal would be something like secure a job by the time I graduate college. Students should be encouraged to set an array of goals that vary in time frame, and shorter and medium-term goals should especially lead to the effectiveness of the long-term goal. Another key detail is that goal setting generally refers to two phases. The first phase is setting the goal and indicating which achievements should be reached, and the second phase is tracking progress towards the goals. This should happen regularly and may even result in changes to the original goals. Finally, we want to point to the relevance of career and academic goal setting. Because IPS are intended to be highly personalized, so should each student's goals. But just because the goals are individual does not mean that the importance varies. Research and goal setting theory suggests that individuals who set and track their progress on goals they set themselves are more likely to perform well on tasks related to their goals than individuals who do not set goals. The second phase of goal setting, tracking your progress, surfaced as one of the core components that makes goal setting effective because it provides students the opportunity to reflect on their own choices and ask if the decisions that they've made are truly working to support the achievements that they want. On the next slide, we're going to discuss outcomes from the research scan that are associated with goal setting, and then we'll follow up with some key characteristics of effective goals. So goal setting was found to be connected to a variety of positive outcomes. It's important to note that setting goals alone is not associated with these positive outcomes, but there must be an environment of setting, discussing, and reflecting on goals within a school and community. When schools have built that environment and students have the opportunity to set their goals, the literature scan revealed three broad categories of positive outcomes. These categories are increased academic engagement, improved learning competencies, and increased post-secondary and secondary outcomes. In the first bucket of outcomes, we see increased academic engagement. This can mean a few different things depending on the age level of students and the culture within their school, but generally there's a few key qualities. First, we identified that students may feel a stronger sense of ownership over their own learning. This may mean that they feel more empowered to select their classes, they might be more likely to say that they're interested in the content of their classes, and often we saw that they just generally liked school a little bit more. Second, they may feel more motivated to set challenging goals related to their own long-term career and academic goals, as they feel more connected to what they're learning in class. Third, They're more likely to pursue the goals that they set and engage in the different stages of a learning process. This means that students are interested in the full cycle of learning and how they connect to their own personal growth and development, rather than just marking off completed coursework for credit. Finally, when students set goals and were found to be more engaged in their academics, it often meant that they had enrolled in a career exploration class. Students who have access to and can enroll in career exploration classes may be more likely to report setting and being motivated to achieve longer-term goals than students who do not have access to those types of classes. The second category of outcomes associates goal setting with improved learning competencies. The active goal setting is a competency associated with learning to learn skills, which students may need in order to engage in deeper learning. These learning to learn skills can help them to grasp complex content and engage with the learning process. And students with goal setting practices may see improved rates of intrinsic motivation, meaning that after they have practiced their skills regularly, they find reasons of their own to set goals and pursue more challenging coursework. Finally, students who set goals were more likely to build better study habits and report higher feelings of self-efficacy, which helped them to design their own learning and participate more effectively in IPS activities. The literature found that students may be more likely to actually achieve their goals when they have these learning competencies, especially because they are able to personally and design their own learning as their own active agency. Finally, increased secondary and post-secondary outcomes were associated with effective goal setting. Students were more likely to graduate from high school, and we also saw increased post-secondary retention, performance, and graduation from students who could set their own goals. This may be because students are more likely to discuss their goals with friends and family, which helps them feel more supported and motivated. Also, students who have the support of an adult at school were more likely to complete advanced coursework, take college prep curriculum, or enroll in college. So while these increased outcomes are more likely related to the whole culture of a student's family, school, and community, we do see that the cultures that incorporate positive goal setting really do help students achieve these outcomes. So now that we've discussed a little bit about what the research says about the importance of goal setting, we want to briefly discuss what makes an effective goal on the next slide. There's a lot of literature about SMART goals and other types of goals. So on this slide, we've just listed a few broad characteristics of effective goals from the literature that can help ensure students are engaging in the goal-setting behaviors that will lead to positive outcomes. So first, we see that effective goals are individual and specific to every student. This also means that students have the autonomy to set their own goals rather than be told as a class what goals need to be set. Second, effective goals are oriented towards the mastery of a specific skill or competency rather than the performance of or completion of a specific goal. So students are able to understand their actual progress on a skill. Effective goals are also built on continuous development of personalized interests and are relevant to their own lives. Fourth, effective goals balance between what is meaningful and what is attainable, meaning that students have the opportunity to alter their own perception of their own skills. They can set goals that are slightly beyond their own perceived capacities, and they're able to surprise themselves. But we do see that goals that are too advanced or too limited may stifle that opportunity to learn. We want you to consider these characteristics as we move towards thinking about ways to implement effective goal setting practices. So on the next slide, we'll talk about some implementation strategies. So these are just options for practitioners to use to implement effective goal setting in their schools and communities. These implementation strategies draw upon the literature and examples of strong practice that we've learned while working with KSDE. The first strategy is to invite all of the adults in a school, beyond core content teachers and counselors, to teach goal setting and support ongoing development. This helps students see that goal setting is a part of everyday life and a part of all types of learning. It also helps students to set goals that may be more personalized to their interests, because if they're asked to think about, their goals on the basketball team, they're able to situate their own life rather than just thinking about English or math class related goals. The second strategy could be helped by the first, and it is to build a culture of goal setting, where it is very common for students to set goals across a multitude of subjects, topics, and experiences. When a school has a goal-setting culture, it increases the likelihood that students discuss their goals with each other and not just their teachers. It also may lead to more reflective practices because it is part of life at school to think about your own progress and your own goals. The third implementation strategy is to teach students the core components of effective goals before asking students to set them. This helps to ensure that students are setting goals that can actually help them. It also means that when they reflect on their own progress, they can see that their goals and achievements are meaningful to their own interests. Finally, you can include goal setting as a part of every and all IPS activity that you do, like creating an e-portfolio, taking a Zello lesson or an online course during advisory, or even attending a career fair, so that students are encouraged to set those personally relevant goals related to their own post-secondary hopes and dreams. This can help make the IPS process more interesting to them and can also connect each activity to the idea that setting their own goals can help them reach the milestones that they are the most excited about. So goal setting is just one important piece of the bigger IPS puzzle. And I'm going to hand it over to Tamia now, who will talk to us about another important piece, electronic portfolios.
Thank you, Liz. The second topic we researched for our fact sheets is electronic portfolios. On the next slide, I'll go over what electronic portfolios are and why they're important. So based on our literature scan and on research on IPS, we define electronic portfolios or e-portfolios as collections of documents and artifacts that provide evidence of college and career readiness. In the context of IPS, they serve as a record of all IPS-related activities, including career interest assessments, post-secondary planning, and coursework or activities aligned with their career interest. E-portfolios are used in Kansas and several other states to collect results from personal strengths inventories, resumes, transcripts, personal statements, and other records of career-aligned activities such as work and volunteer experiences. In addition to these artifacts, Kansas students are encouraged to incorporate work-based learning artifacts into their portfolios, including, for example, work samples, employability skills assessment results, and industry-recognized certifications. We'll discuss some ways and examples for students to use an e-portfolio soon. Developing an e-portfolio usually involves two phases. First, students input different artifacts or documents from any activities they've done, and then they reflect on them. Reflection is the most important piece of developing an e-portfolio. Because the process of documenting learning artifacts and experiences helps students self-reflect and evaluate their progress towards reaching their educational goals. We'll talk about how to use e-portfolios for goal setting in the next few slides. On the next slide, we'll discuss some outcomes from our research that are associated with e-portfolio use. So there are many positive outcomes for students using e-portfolios. The first outcome is increased academic engagement. Reflecting on educational experiences can increase students' engagement with the coursework and activities that are the most relevant to them. This reflection provides opportunities for students to make connections between these experiences and their personal interests. Students are also documenting learning artifacts and experiences, which helps them self-reflect and evaluate their progress towards reaching their educational goals. As a result, students are more aware of how their experiences have affected them, and they're better able to identify areas for potential improvement. Creating e-portfolios also increases student confidence by offering opportunities to reflect on their experiences and communicate their growth with their peers. Similarly, students reported that e-portfolios have helped them prepare for career experiences like job interviews. And lastly, students build self-directed learning skills while developing their e-portfolio because they're really encouraged to be creative and they have a lot of freedom while they're developing their e-portfolios. And now that we've discussed some of the positive outcomes associated with portfolio use, we want to discuss the best strategies for using e-portfolios in the classroom. So research suggests that one of the best strategies to implement e-portfolios is to define all terms related to e-portfolios and explain why they're necessary. Highlighting the purpose of e-portfolios can help students feel that developing a portfolio is just not another task they have to complete. Additionally, students who understand the purpose and benefits of creating an e-portfolio have reported feeling more confident and motivated to create and use them in the future. Students also need to be supported in the technical elements of developing an e-portfolio. So e-portfolio softwares can be very different based on the program selected by each school. So it's important that students have the necessary resources to fully understand all of the features of the ePortfolio software and how to access help when needed. It's also very important that the instructor has prior training with the ePortfolio software so that they can guide students and be an additional resource if students have any questions or trouble while they're developing their portfolio. Sharing feedback on portfolios that is relevant and meaningful is also very helpful for students. Students report that one of the most valuable resources when developing their portfolio is receiving feedback from both their instructors and their peers. Additionally, providing detailed instructions, rubrics, and strong examples can help students reflect and improve the status and quality of their own portfolios and increase the ability to provide meaningful feedback on their peers' portfolios as well. Research also suggests that emphasizing reflective learning and thinking and building reflection into ePortfolio development is the key behind the positive outcomes that I previously mentioned. Students benefit from the reflection piece because they're required to assess how their experiences are impacting their goals and their future. Lastly, it's important to build ePortfolio time into classroom instruction. Students may feel hesitant to develop e-portfolios due to the competing demands on their time, such as other assignments. Providing students with time during class can give them opportunities to focus on the experiences that they want to highlight in their portfolios without the stress of other assignments. And next, I just want to briefly go over some of the ways that teachers and students can use their e-portfolios. Many students have reported that they enjoy that e-portfolios are very flexible and they appreciate that it can be used in many different contexts. For example, educators can create custom goal-setting activities so that students can use e-portfolios to develop and track academic and career goals. Students have reported that they found e-portfolios useful when connected to their academics and goals. So creating activities like this can be an engaging way for educators to give students ownership over their academics and goals. E-portfolios can also be used for students to learn more about themselves and share their experiences with others. Students can save their results from Zell lessons or other activities that allow them to explore their personality type, learning style, and other interests. This could also be a very beneficial way to facilitate more connections between students, their teachers, and their peers. Educators can also use ePortfolios to assess the understanding of class material by creating ePortfolio assignments. Instructing students to complete an activity in their ePortfolio allows students and educators to evaluate their students' understanding over time. Lastly, ePortfolios can be a beneficial tool for students to use when they're developing a resume, college, or job application. The documentation of student experiences over time can be useful and convenient, especially closer to student graduation. So overall, the use of ePortfolios can be very flexible, but overall it's a very useful tool for students to organize all of their IPS-related activities.
All right. Well, thank you, Tamia. Well, thank you, Tamia, and thank you to all the others who presented with me today and everyone that has joined us. That concludes our presentation. So again, thank you. I wanted to add again, here at the end are the links and a QR code you can use to access the infographic and the fact sheet that we discussed. Both of those include all of the research and references and citations that we discussed during this presentation. So again, thank you all for your time, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.